My guest today is a fellow resident coach of the Dad Bod Transformation Group. He's also the owner of G-Force Health, Fitness, and Performance. He's a veteran in the fitness game with over 20 years of experience. During that time, he's been a trainer for the British military, as well as working with such people as Martin Ford, Eddie Hall, and even Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He and I have done several podcasts together on multiple platforms, and it's always a pleasure to have him on the show. Please welcome my bald, bearded brother from across the pond, Matt Griffiths. Matt, how you doing, buddy? It's good seeing you.
Doing good, John. How's yourself, mate? How's yourself?
Oh, staying busy, brother. Staying busy.
Good. That's the way we like it.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, I'm really glad that you had time to get together with me so we can have this little discussion about mindset and adherence.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm happy to be here, mate. It's always a pleasure. I enjoy doing these kind of things.
Oh, yeah, me too. So, what would you consider to be the biggest, I'd say, obstacle that people deal with when it comes to adhering to a nutrition or training program?
Okay. It's quite a big question, really, because there's a lot of variables involved in this. But I would say the biggest obstacle people have when it comes down to the fundamental of it, and in the vein of what we're talking about here, is believing in what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the big and the real key elements. There's multiple methods out there, and there's multiple streams of information coming at people. They're bombarding them from left, right, center, above, below, all over the internet these days. And it's very difficult, in a coach's perspective, when you're talking to somebody and when people are actually just picking up a routine from elsewhere, for them to stick to these things without being sidetracked by, oh, hang on, this works better, and having all these things come at them.
Right.
And I think the big thing then is when they don't believe in it, they don't apply themselves to it, and it fails.
Mm-hmm.
And then they blame whatever it is they've tried rather than turning the focus back on themselves, which is probably the reason it hasn't quite gone to plan.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It seems like that what winds up happening more often than not is that people just get distracted by the next shiny thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like they've got a plan that they're working with, and things seem to be going okay, but the weight loss has slowed down, or the gains have slowed down, or whatever, and then that next little shiny thing catches their eye, and then before you know it, they're abandoning what was working to try to do something new. And more often than not, it winds up being counterintuitive.
Absolutely. You're quite right there. But the trouble is with any sort of progression method, if we're talking weight loss or if we're talking gaining muscle or gaining strength, all of these things, when you initially approach them, we talk about the strength and muscle gain. Initially, your nervous system adapts very quickly to become more efficient. So you start lifting bigger weights much, much faster. When you initially start dropping the weight, a lot of people fundamentally reduce calories and they reduce a lot of carbohydrate. There's a lot of fluid loss comes there, and then lose a huge portion of what they perceive as weight. And then that isn't something that's maintainable. It doesn't continue in a linear fashion. These things have ebbs and flows, have ups and downs. And when they hit these lower points, that's when they fall off. They go, I'm not seeing it now. It's been a week and I haven't seen this weight loss. And weight loss can stall for 2-3 weeks, even a month.
Absolutely.
Your body reaches that point and you let it adapt and set, and then you can kickstart it again. But yeah, I think the one of the biggest problems with this is patience and understanding of the way the body works. I mean, we're talking biological functions here. We're talking sort of like the metabolic change in your body, reducing its energy output. We're talking about we're taking fat cells, breaking them down and using them as a fuel source. We're talking the construction, the osmosis of fluids to actually build a muscle construct. It doesn't happen in a split second. It happens over a period of time. And I think that's where people need to step back a little bit and just have that bit of patience. You didn't put the weight on overnight. You don't turn into a bodybuilder overnight either. You're just going to step back.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I tell people that all the time. It's like, how long did it take you to put on 50 pounds? Well, it happened over a couple of years. Well, why would you expect it to be gone in 3 weeks or a month or even
Yeah,
6 months? It's
absolutely.
just kind of crazy. But people get caught up in that. And that leads me to my next question. How much of it, as far as the adherence goes and getting distracted and things like that, how much of that would you attribute to a person's mindset when it comes to health and fitness?
I would attribute adherence a 100% to mindset.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
fundamentally there. I use the example, and I have used the example quite a few times, that we sort of effectively a skeletal frame driving a flesh covered mech.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all up here. Everything that governs it is upstairs.
Right.
Whether any kind of nutritional input or exercise input that's affecting our brain chemistry, our hormones, our feel
Mm-hmm.
good, serotonin, dopamine changes, it's all happening upstairs. And how we react to them, how we
Right.
identify them, how much we know about them, will dictate how we're going to respond. Do we all of a sudden go, I desperately need that serotonin fix from sugar? Do I rush to the
Right.
sugar? Do we sort of go, I know what that is, rather than going straight for some refined sugar product? I'm going to go and have some fruit instead, some fiber bound sugar, something a bit better, something,
Yeah.
gradually changing that sort of method and breaking those habits. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where it comes in. It goes back to the sort of conditioning that they've given themselves over a period of years. They believe it's right because that's what they've always done. But the
Sure.
reality of it is that that's why they've got themselves into this position, because they've believed
Mm-hmm.
that was the right way to do it when it hasn't been for them.
Right. Right. And what a lot of people don't seem to understand is that, when your mind literally leads everything you do. Your
Yeah,
body will follow your mind's lead.
absolutely.
There have been many, many studies. Look at things like neuro linguistic programming and things like that. And what they've realized as far as what you're telling yourself will lead your body. If you can convince your mind that something exists, then your body's going to believe it and it's going to take things from there.
And I'm going to delve into a different topic here just to give you some examples now. Stepping away from the health industry, let's make this sort of relevant to people. We talk
Mhm.
about perception, eyesight, hearing, the sense of touch, the sense of taste. All these things, all they are is an electrical stimulus in your brain.
Right?
It's a stimulus that shot up your nerve, and it's a magnetic reaction between atoms. The atoms don't even touch. So you physically, this bottle, for example, in terms of
Yeah.
physics, I'm not actually in contact with it because there
Mm-hmm.
is an atomic gap between
Yeah.
things. But there's an electrical charge between them. So that sends a signal down my body that I'm actually holding it. The magnetism allows me to actually have a grip of it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
interpreted by my brain. Now, electrical signals, as well we know from anything else, can be interfered with.
Sure.
Magnetism being the main one. Magnetism is a great one for it. And I've always said this to people. What happens around the Earth? What's running from pole to pole through the iron core that we've got in this planet? Massive
Right.
magnetic field. And
Yep.
so these things can all be, this is ice. I mean, we know full well we have too much to drink. If someone's
Mm-hmm.
ever taken recreational drugs, any of these things that can affect the ability of the brain to interpret electrical signals changes how
Right.
you think.
Yep.
So why don't we think that food is doing this or exercise is doing this? It's the same thing.
Exactly.
We talk about barrier things here. So that's just using a sort of real world example. The moment something gets affected in the brain, you can have a hallucination because you believe something's there, and it's
Sure.
effectively your brain trying to interpret what it doesn't understand. So it tries to
Mm-hmm.
give it some sort of form that you understand. That's how
Right.
vision works, but
Yeah.
it's all electrical. So it's a very deep topic, that one is. I mean, I'd go on for
Oh
hours and
no,
hours into
no. It's good because people don't seem to realize that everything is connected like that. And that's why I was really looking forward to doing this with you, because your background and all the different stuff that you've studied and everything, I'm just starting to get into some of the other aspects outside of just nutrition and fitness. And you've been studying that stuff for a long time. And people just do not get the fact that everything is connected. Everything.
absolutely.
It's like there was a post in the Dad Bod group the other day, and I don't remember who posted it, but what it was, whoever it was, they follow a ketogenic protocol, and they had posted a question in the group about drinking alcohol, because most people have this common misconception that alcohol turns to sugar in your bloodstream, and it's not true. What it does do for somebody that's in ketosis is the liver takes over dealing with the alcohol that you put into your system. And when it does that and it's focusing on the alcohol, it stops producing ketones. So it doesn't actually kick you out of ketosis, but it prohibits the production of it. And that's what people just don't, there's so many myths and things like that out there. People, they don't know whether to buy into the dogma or actually do a little research and figure out what's going on.
I think this is where the problem comes, and it comes with the mindset. As I mentioned, it's the bombarding of information, and everything comes across, the fancy websites or fancy this, fancy that, this new method. It's all shiny. It's in your face. This celebrity's doing it. This celebrity's doing it. And fundamentally, a few twists and turns aside around things, but every single diet works on the same principles.
Sure.
It's just simple energy balance. Whether you're trying to bulk, whether you're trying to cut, whether you're trying to build muscle, whether you're trying to lose muscle, whether you're trying to have a recomposition, it all falls somewhere on the energy balance scale. And depending on how you want to, what type of diet you wish to follow, depends on the protocol of how you get into that calorie deficit, for example, or that calorie surplus, and what kind of macros you're going to have with it. But I think there's certainly with the mindset aspect, I think what we need to start doing to give people more clarity of thought is understand somewhat what the true definition of genius actually means. And it's simplifying something complex. And that's what we need to do in this thing. Actually simplify this process and stop making it, people delve into the tiniest little nuances of every single thing rather than focusing on getting something else, picking the low-hanging fruit that might be there elsewhere where they can make a massive impact on their life. And it's another form of obsession. That's what it is. And it's tough for people to break that habit. And yes, it's a healthier pursuit than being obsessed with, say, like cookies or, something like that, or, having loads of sodium or things. However, it's still an obsession, which means that in your head, you'll have that habit forming process of being obsessive about things. That's what needs to be broken. And that's where you'll find you can adhere to things a lot better.
Yeah, indeed. It's like I was talking to one of my clients this morning. I woke up this morning and I saw where he had text messaged me, and he's like, dude, I literally blew my diet yesterday. I ate a whole small pizza, and then I got home and I ate some tacos. And, and my first question to him was, what do you think it was that caused you to make those bad food choices? Did you have a stressful day? Did something happen? What kind of mindset were you in? Or did you just decide that, hey, I'm going to live today and eat pizza and tacos? And if you did, that's great. That's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But realize that if there's something actually causing it, you need to identify that and address it, because those are the things that will get stuck in your mind that will keep you from adhering to a nutrition program. It'll keep you from saying, yeah, I'm going to the gym today. All those things are so integral to the success in what it is that you're trying to do. And if you don't identify issues, then you're basically fighting an uphill battle. And that's where working with a coach, at least in my opinion, that's where working with a coach comes in handy. Because just like this morning when I said, okay, maybe something happened with this guy and I need to talk to him and see if he had a bad day or whatever. That's what a good coach does. He's in tune to what's going on and trying to make sure that, he's doing the best for his client and identifying those issues, even if the client can't see them.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about this mindset of things here, it boils down to, they've sort of identified it as being two sort of predominant schools of thought. We have what's called the fixed mindset and we have the growth mindset. Now, the way they tend to work, and obviously there's always variables when it comes to people because psychology is such a massive subject. The way they tend to work is with a fixed mindset. When something, as you've suggested, there happens, say, for example, I've been adhering to a diet, but I've got a fixed mindset, and I come in and I have some chocolate, and I break a couple of squares off, and then the fixed mindset sort of goes, well, I've had 2 pieces now, I might as well finish the whole 200-gram bar, which is a very, very big difference, as we know nutritionally, to having a couple of pieces.
Absolutely.
Because they've had that, then they go, well, I've done that now, I might as well. I'll have a 6-pack of beer as well. And, I'm having a beer. I might order a large pizza while I'm at it to go with it. What, something to do this while I watch the football or whatever. And that's where the fixed mindset comes in. And it's it's sort of resistant methods and a very sort of tried and tested. This is how things have been. And when there is a challenge, sometimes nutritional adherence can be a challenge because it's new things. Rather than embracing the experience and sort of looking at the, I'm going to adjust my taste buds, for example. I'm going to change. This is better fuel for my body, therefore I'll feel better tomorrow.
Right.
They don't do that. They tend to shut it down, which is why it's called fixed, obviously. And the growth mindset approaches it very, very differently. And there are skills and traits that, you don't immediately change from one to the other. But adherence falls in quite a lot. You tend to find most people who don't adhere or are resistant to it, a lot of the times it's because they haven't followed something, and rather than talking about it, rather than coming out and examining why they haven't followed something, which, as you said, you questioned your client on that, they hide away from it because they're embarrassed because they couldn't adhere to a program. Whereas the better way for someone to do it, and anyone watching this, I would strongly advise, if you are with a coach or if you're in the dad bod group, etc., just put it out there and say, look, I went and did this. This is why I think I did this. Put it out there and discuss it and be open about it and accept positive and constructive criticism, because criticism doesn't have to be negative. And then it's all about how you then take that information. What was was it an external stressor that you could have perhaps avoided? There's plenty out there that aren't. If it was something you couldn't have avoided, can you then next time put in a different measure so that if this happens again, we don't reach immediately for the candy, we don't immediately reach for the pack of cookies, we don't reach for the beer. We can go, okay, that's happened there. I'm all right. I'm calm. I'm approaching the situation and my reaction to it is different. Right. That's okay. I can't do anything about that, but I can still control this. And then they're controlling the diet. They don't fall off. They don't end up feeling as bad. Right. And it all sort of boils back to itself. Otherwise, it becomes a vicious circle, I think.
Yep. Yeah. People have a tendency to get caught in those circles, and it's kind of crazy. As far as which do you think is harder to adhere to, in your opinion? I have my own opinion, but I'd like to hear yours. Which do you think is harder to adhere to, a fitness program or nutrition?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. If I was talking about myself, I would say probably nutrition. But then I have given some people some pretty brutal training programs as well. Right. But that's when when I'm training athletes and there's a certain level of elite pushing, it's like, this is not going to be easy. Right. This will hurt. It's like that scene from Gladiator. This will not be over quickly. You will not enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like I hear stuff like that, and I think of, did you ever watch the what was it? Oh, shoot, Spartacus. Did you ever watch that series on? It was on. I want to say it was on Showtime or something like that. There was like three. There was Spartacus, Blood and Sand, and then there was a couple others, and it was like these. They would take these slaves, and they would put them in these. They called them luduses. And they would train these guys to be gladiators. And some of the stuff that they put them through, it was just insane, you know? And
that's it.
You sit back and you look at,
That's how gladiators came back. It was
Yeah,
Romans
absolutely. But then you see stuff like that, and how
gladiator.
yeah, but you see stuff like that, and you see how it was, how it was done, and then you think about modern day fitness and how people go about transform. Yeah, I'll get it out here in a minute. How they go about transforming themselves and whatnot, and I know that I've given people plenty of workout programs and whatnot that were just designed to get them where they needed to be. I don't typically deal with elite athletes or anything like that, or like some of the stuff that you've done. And I just had difficulty finding why people have such a hard time adhering to the workouts. I think nutrition is the hardest thing to adhere to, in my opinion, because there's so much temptation. If you make the decision to go to the gym, you're going to go to the gym and work out. But you got to make a bunch of decisions all day long about what you eat. It's not just making the decision to get in the car and drive to the gym.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. You are bombarded more with nutrition. And I do think as well, in the nutrition field, there is so much misinformation out there. So much. I'll use an example now. My children recently had a letter come back from their school, and they're trying to look out for their health. Fantastic. Right. That's what we want from schools, obviously. Great. And in the letter, it had about sort of snacks that children were having during their sort of recess periods. And, he doesn't want sort of like bars of chocolate or crisps. He wants a healthy snack. And then the example was such as cereal bars. And myself and my partner, she's a personal trainer anyway herself, we sort of looked at each other. Cereal bars, absolutely rammed full of sugar. So are you kidding me? But they make the assumption that these things and I've said to people before, so if it advertises it's low fat, check the sugar content. If it advertises it's low sugar, check the fat content, because it's going to have one in there or the other to make it taste good, because that's how these things work. And if it hasn't got either, then it's loaded with artificial sweeteners, which aren't particularly good for you anyway.
Exactly. It's like, I never got really into looking at nutrition labels until I got into my journey, long before I became a nutritionist or a trainer. I just never bothered to look at labels. And it was really funny because at the time I was working as a service technician for a pool company. And I knew that one of the chemicals that got put in hot tubs to sanitize the water was called bromine. Okay. Now, back in the day when I was really heavy, I used to drink Mountain Dew like it was going out of style. So then I start looking at all these labels, and I was in a store one day and I just picked up a Mountain Dew and started reading the label. And sure enough, bromine is an ingredient. That's some scary shit, dude. That is scary. Yeah. And considering the fact that I used to drink it by the gallon, I was a little concerned when I read that. You know what I mean? So, and what you're saying is exactly true. Marketing is like smoke and mirrors.
It is, and it brings us on to this mindset thing. And the example you've just used there's actually an episode of The Simpsons where they covered it. And people who go back and remember it, and they all of a sudden got these, these like vending machines and drink machines in the school. And Lisa Simpson was reading through some of the ingredients, and she was like, look at this list of ingredients. And there was one of them she read out was monosodium poisonate. That's basically how sort of simple, that's what happens. But it's all this marketing on there. And it is the mindset, because you're being constantly bombarded in your head and baffled. And then in that sort of web of confusion, you're being manipulated. That's all it is. It's pure manipulation. Protein powders came out all of a sudden when Arnold started pushing them and it became popular. Pumping Iron was released and everyone's coming out, big, strong. How do we get this? Oh, you need more protein. Just so happens, ding, ding, ding. Here's some protein for you.
Right.
This sort of thing is what gets people. They call it in the media the hypodermic syringe theory.
Yes.
where they deliver what you want. And this is why it's so important and pivotal when you're on this transformation journey to adopt the growth mindset, because the growth mindset, by part of what it does, if there's a challenge, if there's a problem, there's nutrition, as we're talking about here. It's not a case of going, I've been given, what have I got? I've got chicken, rice, and some vegetables, or chicken, rice, and that's this is what I'm eating. That's why I'm eating. It's actually looking into, why am I having this? What's it doing to me? Understanding the principles. You know, I mean, if you ever go with a good coach, you shouldn't ever have to be with them long term, because you're learning from them.
Exactly.
That's the whole purpose of it. Teach somebody. You know, there's plenty of places on the internet you can go and get a cookie cutter diet sort of set out, or someone can calculate your macros for you, etc. But the whole purpose and the whole way to transform, and most importantly, sustain for the rest of your life, to pass on to the other generations, you know, your children, your partners, your children's children, is to learn and understand. And that's part of the growth mindset. Don't close your mind to the information. Be aware there's going to be a lot of noise, but seek out the knowledge and actually learn about the situation.
Indeed. And you know, it's like, I was just talking about that with a client. It was a couple of weeks ago. He'd been with me for about 4 or 5 months. He pretty much reached his goals, and you know, he learned a lot of things along the way, which, as you just touched on, as coaches, it's our job to educate our clients. You know, and I was like, okay, well, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see the need to take your money anymore. I really don't. I think that you achieved your goals. You know, I've given you all the tools that you need to continue down the road and be able to maintain what you've achieved. You know, I think I'm just going to turn you loose. And if you ever need me again, come back and see me. And he's like, how in the hell do you build a business and make money like that? And I told him, I said, look, it's not my job to keep you my client for the rest of your life or the rest of mine. It's my job to bring you in, teach you what you need to know, help you achieve your goals, and make sure that you picked up enough along the way that you don't need me anymore. And he's just like, that doesn't seem like job security to me. But what he doesn't realize it is, because for every person and you know this yourself because you've been at it over 20 years, every person that you help is a walking billboard for what you've done.
Absolutely.
And for your coaching, you know, for your philosophy behind it all, they walk around and they're literally, and they tell people. And that's how you build a business, doing this stuff.
Absolutely. And I think it's very, very key, and I'm always big on this. And some of the articles I'm writing for my clients, and I give them 6,000-7,000 word documents because that's the way I am. But the sort of information that's in there is, you know, I'd prefer them to sort of have it and be able to understand what it is that's actually driving them internally. Right. I'm not just talking physiological and biological sense of that, you know, the sort of like microchemistry and microbiology involved, but in terms of psychological drivers, what is it that they're trying to achieve, and why are they trying to achieve it? Some guy comes up, I want to look good, I want to get, you know, generally, I mean, let's go with the generic, I want to drop some fat, I want to build some muscle, I want to tone up, is the phrase they like to use, which is fine, you know, that's what they want to do, absolutely, 100%, go for it. But then it's asking a little bit deeper, well, why? What's the real reason for this? I mean, are we talking health related? Is this a confidence thing? I mean, it could be all of the above. Is this because, you know, you're having, it could be a midlife crisis for all we know, a psychological crisis in the middle of the life, you know, and if that's driving you to get healthier and come out as a new and sort of improved person, go for it. You know, all these different things are there, but it's understanding the real drivers behind them and why you're getting involved. Then if you are going to get involved in something, have that open mind and that ability to grow. You've got to make sure that you're pushing yourself towards that area of, I want to be this thing. You know, don't let your emotions control you, because that will control your eating as well. But allow yourself to understand why they're there, observe them and go, that's fine, but I'm not going to react to them anymore because they don't control me, I control them. Right. And that's the whole growth. And that's how people can maintain something for the rest of their life, because then when the external stressors do come in, there's, I don't know, a traffic jam on the way to work, or something's happened with their partner, or something along those lines, one of the many, many things that can happen.
Right.
It doesn't become such a personal issue that all they do is throw everything into the air and then go on a path of self-destruct. That's the real key.
Right.
It's a case of this has happened, protect yourself from it, and continue along the path of growth rather than just destroying what you've worked for.
Sure. And the bottom line is, if they've worked with a good coach, we've given them those tools that they can handle it. When those stressors come along and those situations happen, they're like, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to do what I used to do that led me to where I used to be. I know a different way. I know how to deal with this now. Absolutely. And that's
coaching is absolutely one of the ways that people can achieve these sort of results. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, if you could leave our viewers with one little key or tip or trick as far as improving their mindset about fitness and their ability to adhere to a program, what would it be?
I would say you probably all had the experience, okay, where you've spoken to this one person, and for whatever reason, this one person seems desperate to impress you, seems desperate, and you could be saying things, and you might even get to the point where you're saying things you don't even think to see if they agree with them. Okay, we all know people like this, and you find it a little bit irritating at times.
Yeah.
So don't be that person. Be you. Stop trying to adjust who you are for somebody else. Only adjust yourself for you. If you adjust yourself for you and focus on being the best you, learn about these things, understand why you're on certain diets or why you're following certain training programs, and see them through. If they don't work after you've seen them through, then you're 100% sure that that isn't for you. If you quit it halfway through, you're never actually certain if that's going to work for you or not. And you could be leaving something by the wayside that was the best thing for you. Because progress is not linear. It doesn't keep going. You know, your muscle gain doesn't go like that. Your fat get loss doesn't go like that. They wave, they wave. So you could be in that position. Give it a chance, see it through, keep an open mind, and just be the best you. Simple.
Exactly. Yeah, it actually, that was awesome, man. That was like really powerful. And it kind of brings to mind, and it's going to sound stupid, but I was sitting the other night watching a movie called Fighting with My Family. It's all about the wrestler Paige that was from Norwich, England, and how she made it over to the States and got in WWE. And it was funny because she met The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, for the first time when she went to go try out. And her and her brother had this interaction with him, and they kept asking him for little tips and tricks and all this. And at the end of it all, he's like, look, the bottom line is this: just be you. Be you. Don't go out there and try to be the next me. Be the first you. You know what I'm saying? If you focus on being the best you that you can be with nutrition, with fitness, with anything in your life, you're going to win. Plain and simple.
Absolutely. I mean, and then that's the guy there. I mean, I had the pleasure of obviously working with The Rock before, but his father obviously was a professional wrestler, so he was already famous to a point as well. So we had some big shoes to fill if he was going to try and do that, but he exceeded that, shot past it, because he did use his own natural personality and charisma. And everyone's got, you know, you've got your own style of delivering things. Chris has got his own style. I've got my own style of delivering things. And that's, you know, if we try and be something different, or if anyone try, you know, watching this, if you keep trying to be something different, the mask will fall off at some point, and it's going to leave you feeling either disillusioned with yourself because you had this self-belief that this is who you were, or you're going to become like very embarrassed because you realize everyone's found things out. Just be who you are. Be who you are. Be the best version of you. Nobody can ask any more than that of anyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, brother, this has been an amazing conversation, and I sure am glad, like I say, that you had time to sit down and have it with me. I look forward to doing more of this stuff with you. Any last words for our viewers?
No, just enjoy the process, enjoy the ride, learn to enjoy the ride. Keep your eye on the destination, but don't miss the scenery along the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys. If we hope you found some value in this video and that you liked it, and if you did, make sure you click the like button. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share it with all your friends. Join us in the Dad Bod Transformation Group on Facebook. It is one of the fastest growing groups on Facebook, and you cannot find a better spot for motivation and support. So until I see you guys again, playtime's over. Get your asses to work.